blessed this morning to have Pastor Bruce Sungard with us from Hudson United Methodist Church. I'll invite Bruce forward for our invocation. All rise, please.
In the name of Almighty God, the compassionate, the merciful, all praise be to you, Creator and Sustainer of all that is, seen and unseen. We acknowledge your presence in order to worship you. Before undertaking the work at hand, we seek your guidance and commit ourselves to walk in your ways so that at the end of this day, when we lie down in our beds, we might receive your most precious of gifts, a good night's sleep, rather than to go astray and face your displeasure in the late night darkness. On this most beautiful of October mornings of the new day you made, we gather in the government center of the Wisconsin County, named to remind us, our children and our children's children, the means by which you revealed your love for this world. May we forget the names of our children and grandchildren before we forget that sacred cross where the dearest and best for a world of lost sinners was slain. Only by your grace and a sense of humor do I stand before these honorable men and women in fulfilling a great honor bestowed upon me, and that is of praying for the St. Croix County Board of Supervisors. I implore you to shine your face upon Alfred, Brian, Buzz and Buck, Esther, Frederick, James, Joe, Karen, Linda and Lauren, Richard, Robert, Roger and Ryan, Sharon and Stephen, William, and my own representative of North Hudson, Darrell. May each of them serve faithfully and honorably in their elected capacity as they represent the residents of St. Croix County. Use these servants of the people to uphold justice, not just for a few with special interests, but for all 85,000 of us. Because of the demanding nature of their work, please look kindly upon them and what they accomplished today, and graciously accept the work they are about to render as a sacrifice offered to your glory, for they hope to do thy will on earth as it is done in heaven. And I ask that you give each of them your gift of faith, so that the important work they are about to do will build upon the sure foundations of those who faithfully serve before them. Preserve their hearts and minds from the taint of suspicion and doubts over the motives of others, which can divide a house, a church, a government, even a great nation, and eventually bring about its demise. Help us all to be more mindful of the needs of others so that we might obey your command to love our neighbors and enemies as ourselves. And by your grace, grant these men and women who have been called and chosen through the electoral process that divine peace which passes all understanding as they struggle together to govern for the good of all. And protect them, Lord, from discouragement caused by harsh, unfair criticism so often expressed against anyone attempting to do anything in these highly polarized political times we now live in. And I also pray for those county residents who may disagree with the decisions that they will be making today. May their own mindfulness of the bounteous blessing you have shed upon them prevent them from becoming big babies and infantile whiners who can turn the important work of a county supervisor into a thankless job no one in their right mind would accept. May we all respect our elected officials, whether they are county supervisors or the President of the United States. So regardless if we agree or disagree with their decisions and its outcome, that we are able to express our appreciation for all the work that has gone into their decisions. And so with your guidance and wisdom, we approach the work we now face with confidence that the problems we face today in St. Croix County may be solved by us, thy servants, as we work together. God's peace be upon you all. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Pastor. Supervisors, indicate your attendance, please, for the roll call. We do have a quorum. There are two absences this morning. I have not heard from Supervisor Stauffer and cannot report on his absence. This morning we did receive a call from Vice Chair Wentz, and she is unable to be with us this morning, and I have no further information on that. Supervisors, our County Administrator, Pat Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, County Board of Supervisors. Just a couple of items to report on this morning. First of all, just a quick update on the strategic planning effort that is underway here with the staff. The board provided direction at the August 16th Committee of the Whole meeting and approved by board resolution at our September 16th meeting, mission statement and 6 core priority areas. The strategic planning work group has met twice since then. I've also met with the entire group of department heads and rolled out an abbreviated version of what we went over as a committee of the whole. The strategic planning work group is now working with individual department heads along with myself to develop operational work plans for each department, and those operational plans contain measurable performance indicators and outcomes. And those operational departmental work plans then will funnel into the overall strategic plan. This will then eventually feed into performance management and pay for performance. Although that will take place probably mid-year next year, the pay for performance component. The strategic plan itself will be completed hopefully by the end of the year, and in January I would anticipate bringing that back to the full county board for final approval for the strategic plan. The second item is just a brief discussion on the 2012 budget. The Committee on Administration will meet this afternoon at 1 o'clock to review the 2012 County Administrator recommended budget. The budget overall is balanced within the Committee on Administration and the Committee of the Whole guidelines, which were established earlier this year. It represents bottom line an overall decrease in county spending and a zero increase in the controllable portion of the county levy. Departmental budget summaries have been reviewed by each of the standing committees. Upon Committee on Administration review this afternoon, the board will forward the budget to the county board, which is scheduled for review and action on the budget November 1. Thirdly, and it's kind of related to the budget, but part of the ongoing effort with staff is to look at overall staffing levels in each of the departments, individual jobs within the departments, the workspace needs that are allocated for each position and each job function. As a result of that, I've asked 3 departments to serve as pilots for a project that will look at each of the positions in their departments and what types of results are expected from each position and what kind of outcome for each job function. And then related to that, what type of work environment that position needs to work in. Do they actually need to work in a county office, or do they need to occupy county facility space to fulfill the necessary functions of their job and produce the outcome that is expected for each position? The Public Health Agency, the Land and Water Conservation District, and Child Support are 3 departments which will be undergoing a pilot project in the next few months. And based on the success of those 3 agencies, we may begin to roll this out in a greater fashion with some of the other county departments, but we wanted to pick 3 departments that I felt could achieve early success, or at least demonstrate success in determining whether or not positions need to actually occupy county facility space. Now, some will say that it sounds like work from home, or it sounds like telecommuting, or it sounds like something else, but it really is looking at positions very, very specifically to the county. What is the function of that job? What are we expecting as outcomes? And do they need to be actually sitting in this building, or in New Richmond, or out at the Ag Center to fulfill their jobs? Can they do it from somewhere else and still achieve the necessary outcomes and produce what that position needs to do? So it's a pilot project for those 3 agencies which I mentioned. I'll report back periodically as to progress being made and where we go from there. But I wanted to pick 3 that I felt would show early success. Next, just wanted to report briefly that I'm exploring opportunities with the Hudson School District. Met with the superintendent a couple weeks ago, and we're looking at areas where possibly the school district and St. Croix County can share services more. We're starting to focus on administrative type of overhead. So I've got members of the senior management team meeting with members of the superintendent's management team to see where we can begin to share services at the county and school district level. I've also had preliminary discussions with the city manager of River Falls, and maybe trying to do some of that with River Falls, but not as far along there as I am with the superintendent. Next, in closing, I had an opportunity to meet with county administrators from across the state of Wisconsin last week in Sauk County. We had some good meetings discussing the status of county budgets in separate counties. We talked briefly about performance management and also some of the pending state legislation and its impact on counties. Lastly, I'd like to try to close with good news. Bill Rubin tells me that the August unemployment numbers for St. Croix County are down from July's rate of 6.3. The unemployment rate is now at 5.8. It's still too high, but it shows progress in that area. St. Croix County is one of the lowest counties in the 13-county metro area which we are grouped in, and it also compares very favorably with the overall state of Wisconsin unemployment rate. So we're doing good things here at St. Croix County. It's great to be here. The staff is tremendous to work with. The department heads have been more than cooperative. I enjoy working with each and every one of them, and we're doing good things here. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
The agenda has been distributed for your review. The consent agenda, as you can see, contains only a couple of items. I would intend and hope that we could proceed without objection as we work through the regular agenda this morning to begin with the reports. We have 3 written reports that are in your information: Land and Water Conservation, Parks, and Planning and Zoning. I hope you have taken a prior opportunity to read those reports. They will not be given in length by the presenters, but those departments will be available for comment and any questions or discussion items that you have. We will intend to take a break in our agenda at approximately 10 o'clock. Prior to that break, we will have a presentation by the 4-H people, and then we will take a break, and some might say have some dessert. I would have to say that personally I do not consider ice cream a dessert. I've always considered it one of the basic food groups. So at that point we will we'll have some ice cream. So with that, the chair would entertain a motion for the consent agenda. Motion by Supervisor Malik and second by Supervisor Schrank. Please proceed to vote on the consent agenda.
I gotta get a second.
Just one moment.
Oops, sorry. You're here. I missed a month and now I forgot how to do this.
I need a reminder. Could you say that louder?
We need a second. Oh,
Supervisor Schrank,
okay.
ready to vote?
Yes.
Proceed to vote. And the consent agenda is approved. Moving to the committee and department reports, the first written report that was submitted for your review is Land and Water Conservation. And
I think Mr. Heisey had a
I didn't see
conflict this
Bob.
morning. Yes.
well, definitely he will not be giving a lengthy report. I hope you have had an opportunity to review that. If you have any questions, you can direct them to Bob at a later date or to the committee at this time. Any questions or observations on the annual report from Land and Water Conservation? Supervisor Malik.
I would like to make one observation. I've worked closely with the department in a couple of ways with the Sportsman's Alliance, which is a method of getting a lot of volunteer assistance in issues that matter particularly to anglers and hunters. And the department is very good at coordinating people and projects, and the county aids program for small improvements to things like landings for boats, boat landings, docks, stuff like that. And this last year, I've been representing the St. Croix River Association on the group that's working on the Lake Malilu Lower Willow TMDL, Total Maximum Daily Load. In other words, the plan for a response to the excess of phosphorus in the Lower Willow, as you have, Mr. Chairman. In that connection, I've had the opportunity to work particularly with one of the staff members, Tammy Whitmer, in building a demonstration rain garden in the city of Hudson on a wide boulevard strip. And I just can't resist commending Tammy for her knowledge and her ability to work with volunteers and to train, to educate people. She works with the Master Gardeners. She worked with the Hudson Women's Club, Garden Club, and high schoolers. And so far, things on that particular project have been going okay. We'll see if the plants grow in the spring, but if we keep our fingers and toes crossed, hopefully it'll be all right. But for those of you who might have opportunities to think about places, or if you know of places where water that would otherwise run into a surface body, such as a lake or a stream or river, where that water could be caught and allowed to infiltrate into the ground, that's generally what we call a rain garden, recognize that there is expertise in the department to help with the planning of such things, and they're very good.
Thank you for those comments. Any other questions or observations on the annual report from the Land and Water Conservation Department? If not, we thank Mr. Heisey and his staff. Next report is from the County Parks Department. That also is in your board packet. Annual report from St. Croix County Parks Department. And again, I assume that there is no one designated to follow up today. Any comments or observations on this annual report? Any comments from the parent committee? I commend it to your attention if you've not already read it. And we will move to the annual report from the St. Croix County Planning and Zoning Department. I do see Mr. Ferdrosi in the audience, so I will take the liberty of preempting any questions that might come up and invite him to come forward, because there may well be some. So Dave, as you're making your way forward, any comments, questions, observations on the annual report from the Planning and Zoning Department? Or Dave, I would invite you, if you have any embellishment or any comment that you want to make about the report, in addition to the written information.
No, the report stands. I have no embellishments.
Supervisor Malik.
The report doesn't specifically deal with it, but members of the board may not be aware that the zoning department provides the staffing sort of assistance to the Board of Adjustment, which Supervisor Hurchin and I are on. And there's a considerable amount of work that the zoning staff does in order to assist the 5 members of the Board of Adjustment in doing their decision-making. They begin with receiving applications for variances or special exception permits, or in the last few years we've even had one instance of a question about a review of a decision by the Transportation Department that come before the Board of Adjustment. And the staff for the zoning department provides that assistance, a kind of a staff summary, staff report, a presentation, usually with a PowerPoint showing the landscape that's pertinent to each of our decisions. And then in most cases they help, they provide a draft that can be the basis for a decision by the Board of Adjustment, and then they make the changes that the Board of Adjustment requires as part of its decision. So I know that when you fellow supervisors read our, and this week you got minutes of a Board of Adjustment meeting, and they are very voluminous generally. They seem wordy, but the fact is that litigation in the state of Wisconsin has sort of continually moved in the direction of requiring boards of adjustment to be more and more methodical and thorough in explaining their decisions. And even then, we don't always get it right. We were sent back a decision just a few months ago to do it again. Well, a couple of them lately. So all that cumbersome wordiness is our attempt between the board and the staff to get it right. And so I'm sure I speak for the 5 members of the Board of Adjustment in saying that we're grateful to the department for the assistance that we get. It would be impossible for us to do all of that with just the Board of Adjustment without staff assistance.
Any other comments or questions for Department Head Ferdrosi? Supervisor Hermsen.
Thank you, Board Chair. I too would like to echo along with what Supervisor Malik has said, even from the community development side of the equation. Our committee works very close with Dave and his staff, and until you get in the chair and start seeing the amount of work that comes through, it's a lot. I'm sure supervisors can see and hear the amount of for instance, on the county's comprehensive plan, we've got to go down through that and get that completed yet, the farmland preservation plan, all these other plans that need to come in along with the work that's done with the Board of Adjustment, and all of this needs to gel together. Everything's got to fit real well, and then on top of that you throw in the recycling that's gone on and the code administration. All of this takes a lot of work, and I can't thank Dave enough for what's gone on.
Supervisor Norton Baumann.
I just want to reiterate what Supervisor Hermsen said. I serve on the committee also, and have been now, this is my 4th year serving on this, what is now the CDC, what was the Planning and Zoning Committee. And I must say that I do believe that we as a county are very fortunate to have the experienced staff that we have in that department to hold the whole thing together in the face of what the state requires us to do from time to time.
Any other comments? Well, Dave, since you do not have a microphone over there, I'd ask you to come over here because I think it's now appropriate. Oh, you do? All right, I didn't see that one. Use it so it gets on the audio feed. But since you've now had 3 public attaboys, you might want to at least acknowledge that outpouring of gratitude for your department.
I appreciate the embellishments of the county board. It is a lot of work with the Board of Adjustment and the Community Development Committee, all the activities. I'm humbled by the comments this morning. I thank you for your support. We have a pretty diverse department, and sometimes there's so much going on in some different directions, it can even be confusing, but we try to help the board, the committee, and the Board of Adjustment keep it all straight. And when we don't, they kindly advise us, and I appreciate that as well. The communication between the board and the staff is an important ingredient in all of us getting our work done on behalf of the citizens of St. Croix County. So I appreciate, the staff appreciates, and I have to say, Supervisor Norton Baumann is correct. We have a very experienced staff. Most of them have been here quite a long time. They know their work, they do it well, and they do appreciate the support of the county board and the feedback. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. That completes our annual reports, supervisors. There are no appointments that we have scheduled for today to announce. So let's move into our regular business agenda for the morning. Agenda item number 1 is a resolution authorizing St. Croix County Land and Water Conservation Department to apply for a municipal dam grant. This resolution comes to us from the Community Development Committee, and Chair would entertain a motion. Motion from Supervisor Hermsen and a second from Supervisor Norton Baumann. Discussion or any comment from the committee? Seeing none, supervisors, I assume you are ready to vote. This is a resolution from the Community Development on a motion by Supervisor Hermsen, second by Supervisor Norton Baumann, authorizing the Land and Water Conservation Department to apply for a municipal dam grant. Proceed to vote. And the motion is carried unanimously. Agenda item number 2 is a resolution approving the Health Center Plan of Correction. This is a resolution that comes to us from the Health and Human Services Department, and Chair would entertain a motion. Motion from Supervisor Larson, second from, I see several, Supervisor Marzov. No disrespect to all of the hands that were in the air. My line of sight was in this direction. Discussion. And again, yes, I got buzzed for the second, and the motion was Larson.
Yep.
No. Supervisor Stoffer.
Since we'll be using bond proceeds up to $228,000, I was wondering if we could get an update on the current status of the bond, i.e. how much is available and how much has been allocated.
Is Finance Director Petrick available for that? Oh, there she is. Sorry, Michelle, I didn't see you back there.
Would you repeat the question, please?
I was wondering if you could give a general update on the status of the bond monies, how much has been allocated, and how much is available?
Okay. There has been $1,000,001 spent to date. There is 221,000 roughly that has not been spent and is available for reallocation. And there is 183,000 available on the K-tag that we get the annual waiver for. Or we have been able to get the annual waiver for.
Does that help, James? There's $221,500 available from bond proceeds, unallocated, that could be reallocated.
They're asking for 228 though.
Correct.
Yeah.
And there's an annual waiver. There was a reallocation of bond proceeds of approximately $200,000 that was done about a year ago by the board. That was the parking lot improvements. That was reallocated for the K-tag 67. And there's $183,000 left of that. There was some very preliminary work done towards the K-tag 67, the K67 violation, but there's 183,000 left of the 200 that was reallocated for that, plus an additional 221,554 available currently.
Simply as a point of reference, not a discussion item, would it be correct for us to be of the opinion or be informed that the annual waiver that we're discussing is not a guaranteed annual waiver?
It's not.
We need to apply for it, but there's no guarantee it will be granted?
Right, that's correct. It was a state violation, and we have received annual waivers. We did receive notice, I think this week, that the waiver was approved for one more year, but it's a year-to-year thing. It's an annual, and eventually that work will need to be done. So, I mean, it's a matter of when, not if, the work needs to be done, so.
Supervisor Marzov.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just wondering if, for the benefit of the public and those in our audience here, if one of you could explain the nature of the K-tag citation and what it pertains to.
You're talking about the original one?
Yes.
Well, I'd probably have to call on either Fred or Art, but basically what I understand is that the lower portion of the facility, the lower corridor, is used as an air plenum, and that's a violation of state code. So we can't do that. So there needs to be significant infrastructure modifications done to the lower level to change that airway.
Supervisor Marzov, is that sufficient?
That's the
Building Services Director Tobin probably is the best person to respond to this. If you need more information, I think the board is probably familiar with that, what that is, but Art is available if you need more.
I think that suffices.
Thank
I just thought it was important to note that it was a mechanical, not a patient relation type citation.
Yes, yes, all the original K-tag 67 plus the ones that are incorporated into today's resolution are all infrastructure related. It's not related to nursing care. They're all building issues.
Supervisor Hermsen.
Thank you, Board Chair. I guess I'm a little confused on we have a set amount of money that was set aside for this K-tag 67, this issue that needs to be fixed with the plenum.
Yes,
which was a total of, what was it, 180-some thousand?
approximately 200,000.
Oh, that's not, we're not talking that 200 for this resolution here.
No, that's separate.
That's another,
That was done a year ago.
so is there a reason why we can't, I mean, I understand that, my understanding is that we took dollars that we had targeted towards fixing the parking lot.
Yes,
And we applied that to the
towards,
K-tag.
yes,
Then there were, if I recall, there were other dollars that were taken out of that bond proceeds that went towards the roof, I think in Hammond, and we did a number of repairs.
mm-hmm,
So we've got that 200,000 that is set aside right now for the K-tag, and now what they're asking for is an additional 221, 228.
correct.
So we're up at 428.
Yeah, just a minor deviation from what you said, Supervisor Hermson. Of the 200,000 that was done a year ago was reallocated for the K-tag violation. There's 183,000 remaining of that 200, because some preliminary work was done towards that improvement. So, but your concept is correct. I mean,
And my understanding is there's some additionals yet to come as well?
some additional what?
Repairs that are needed for that building up there that were in the federal citations. I mean, they're not listed here, they're not asked for here, but there are additionals coming behind this, yeah.
Right, there's 205,000. If you look at the attachment to the resolution, it spells out the work that needs to be done. It's broken up into 4 categories. The Category 1 work was work that was part of this federal survey, which is part of the total 228,000, that 40, I'm looking at the high range of 47,250. Some of that work has already been started because we needed to complete that work prior to September 27th. So if you look at Category 1, which is a high range of 47,250, and Category 2, the temporary waivers, it's 181,550. The total of that is the 228,800, which is part of today's resolution. The remaining, the Category 3, is the K-tag that I was referring to for the air plenum. That's money that was reallocated a year ago for that. The Category 4 are pending items that will need to be taken care of or improved as part of this federal survey, but they will probably take place, what I'm being told, is in 2013. So they are work, it is work that will be, need to be taken care of in the future, but it is not part of what we're asking for in today's resolution.
Supervisor Hermson, just by way of reference, I think the board understands the K-tag violation, which is the Category 3, and that's what I asked before about the annual waiver. You are correct, that is money that was diverted from other capital projects, but at this point is unspent.
Correct.
We haven't yet spent it on that waiver.
Correct.
So my question from there goes to of these requests, how much of these requirements need to be fixed? I mean, I think we've heard that there's a timeline on the K-tag 67, is there 70, whatever, which one, the K-tag that
67.
we've always heard, and that we're looking for a waiver on that till next year. Or
Every year. Mhm.
And of the other ones, how many of them are required if the building stays as a nursing home?
Category 1 and Category 2.
Oh, so either way, they gotta be done.
They have to be done. And Category 4 has to be done, but we don't need to attack that part of the project until 2013. But category 1 and 2 need to be done immediately.
Supervisor Norton Baumann.
Thank you, Board Chair. I have a couple of questions, and my first one is going to go something like this. We reallocated the $200,000 for the K-tag, the K-67 violation. We've got $183,000 of that left. My understanding is, according to the bond document, we need to have spent that money by April of 2013. Now, if we've got a waiver, an annual waiver now, that'll take us into 2012. What will we do with that money that's in that reallocated bond for the K-67 violation if we get another annual waiver and don't have to do the repairs? We've got to spend those dollars according to the bond document.
Yes, we do, and at that point, the board would be faced with a decision of possibly reallocating the monies that were set aside for the K-67 waiver. You know, the board would face a decision, possibly reallocating some of those dollars for category 4 items that need to be repaired. But you're right, Supervisor Baumann, that those dollars, you know, based on arbitrage, you need to, you know, there's a certain time frame that those dollars need to be expended, and you're correct, they do. But the board would have the prerogative at that point to potentially reallocate those dollars to, you know, to some, you know, other project work.
Supervisor Norton Baumann.
Thank you, Board Chair. Can I ask, is this the first time we have had a federal inspector in the building?
To my knowledge, yes. We have annual state surveys. This is a federal survey, and what they're actually surveying is the work of the state. It's called a walk behind, and they're actually looking at what the state has inspected, and but yes, to answer your question directly, yes, it was the first time a federal survey was done.
Well, my concern is that if this is the first time we've had a federal surveyor and this department comes back again, what are they going to find another time? I mean, that's a hypothetical question, but I mean, if they've found this much in one visit, what's the potential for down the road, the HHS board coming back to this board saying, we now have another 1, 2, or 3 federal citations and we need more money? I'm concerned about that, and we don't have the answer to that.
No, we don't.
At this point, I'm going to exercise the discretion of the chair. We have had a request from a citizen to address the board and speak on this issue. It is a request that complies with our bylaws. It has been approved by the supervisor, Supervisor Schrank, who represents that area. So I will invite Kim Dupree, per her written request, to speak to this resolution.
Thank you very much. Sharon, just to address your question, I think Art Tobin had told us, even when the building was built, there was no federal inspection. Is that correct, Art? So we've never had a federal person come in 20-plus years. So, okay. Secondly, I just wanted to share a couple quick things. Cindy Anderson is the new interim nursing home administrator, and we welcome her. I appreciate the work she's done thus far. I just wanted to share with you what she said to the Human Services Board last week. And this is her 3rd day on the job. And she said, it is such a privilege to come into a 5-star facility. That's almost unheard of. And something you should be very proud of. And so I thank her for those comments. That helps the staff feel like the work that they do every day is noticed and matters. So thank you, Cindy, for sharing that with the board last week. But I just wanted to clarify the difference between a 5-star home and like a 2-star home. A lot of people think, well, that's the difference between a Motel 6 and a Hilton, between beans and weenies and shrimp and caviar. But that's not what 5-star means in the nursing home world. 5-star means that you don't have staph infections, you don't have other infections, you're not getting bed sores, you're getting your undergarments changed on a regular basis, you're getting cared for, you're getting your medications on time, your physical needs are being met timely. That's what 5-star means. So I just wanted to clear that up, because I think there's been some confusion. And that I personally feel every person deserves 5-star care, no matter what nursing home, hospital, clinic, or whatever. No matter what their station has been in life, past, present, everyone deserves a 5-star care. And when you think about it, when people talk about the nursing home and the employees and how they have good benefits and good wages, well, they worked for it. They got 5 stars out of that. And to me, if you're going on a pay-for-performance mentality, wouldn't you want to pay people who do 5-star work 5-star wages, in a sense? You wouldn't want to pay them 1-star wages because you wouldn't get 5-star work. A couple other comments that I wanted to talk about. Trent Larson, our auditor, came to the Human Services Board last week. And I asked him about some of the changes in Medicaid that could be coming from the state. And he wasn't aware of anything super current right now, but I did specifically ask him about this 90-day look-back time frame that we had talked about in the past, where if you don't actually have an MA card in your hand, you're not going to get care. You're not going to get reimbursement from the state, let me put it that way. And he said that is a concern, because the county has about 30 protectively placed clients, and even though the county is responsible for those people, we have a social contract that we need to abide by. And he mentioned that you'll find that if that goes into effect, where they can't charge somebody back 90 days for the services that they render, a private or a nonprofit home would probably screen those people out. And so it's something to keep in mind that the government entity that we are has a different social contract, was the word he used, as opposed to the private and nonprofit homes. So I would like to remind you, my comment last time that I came up here was the county is the payer of last resort. And while there are many things that are uncertain in the future as we go forward, the one thing we are certain of is that we have a social contract with our citizens to take care of those that are in need of our care. And the best way to do that, I feel, is to do it in-house, because it's cheaper long-term and short-term. So I would ask for you to support this resolution on behalf of the residents. It is their home, and also for our workers and for the community of New Richmond. Thank you.
Additional comments, discussion. Supervisor Sather.
I just had a question. I see in the resolution, I think it's line 38, where they've already spent an estimated cost of $40,000 to $47,000. Who authorized it, and where did that money come from? Was that in the budget? I'm not sure.
That's work that's work in category 1 that, and I'm not sure exactly the dollar amount that has been spent, but that's work that had to start immediately, like day 1. And so those dollars are currently being expended through the facilities budget. And so, you know, I guess I'll have to look at the building services budget at the end of the year. If the board approves this resolution, there may be, you know, and approves the reallocation of those bond proceeds, possibly the building services budget may need to be supplemented. But any dollars that have been spent to date have been minor. They're dollars that had to start immediately, and it's come out of the building services budget.
Supervisor Hermsen.
Thank you, Board Chair. I'm still a little confused on, I thought all of this came about because of a inspection of the building, this federal
Walk behind.
from the state, and wasn't that due to from a nursing home perspective?
It's a,
No, it's just simply because that we're using that as a public building is
no,
why
it's
that-
it's a nursing home inspection, but it wasn't an inspection of nursing care.
No,
It was, it was looking at sprinkler heads, it was looking at paint. It
Correct,
was looking
no.
at building, structure.
Right, but my question previously was, would we have to do this if the building was being used as a nursing home or was not being used as a nursing home, and you said yes to that? So
I did?
That's what I thought I heard.
To that question, no. The answer to that question is no. We would
So-
not need to do this type of work to that facility if it was being used as, an office building. I mean, some work would need to be done, but it wouldn't fall under this type of state or federal inspection. This is geared towards nursing care.
Okay. I forgot my next point.
Supervisor Scheer.
I too look at this and see the money we're spending, and I'm gonna ask Art to come up and explain. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's listed in here and a lot of money we gotta spend. I'm just curious, in his opinion, his professional opinion, as a guy that knows his buildings, is this the tip of the iceberg? Is this gonna get us up to where we need to be, or is this just partial, or what's the future look for this thing? Art, I don't know if you have any other information that you could share with us for the future of this. I feel like we're throwing money into a burning building. And, if this gets it right and we move forward and there's not gonna be these kind of outlays, well, it's a different opinion, but if there's other stuff, Art, that's looming out there that wasn't cited in this, could you expand on that for us?
I think I will again exercise the discretion of the chair and let Art ponder on that for a few moments while we have some ice cream. Since it's now 5 minutes to 10, pardon me? I have not, I do
They're in
not see Nancy.
1281.
Okay,
Yep.
go have Nancy come over here, and we'll let her do her presentation. Then we will break for some ice cream. Art, you ponder on the answer to that question, and you will be first up when we reconvene. I'm sorry? Welcome, ladies. Nancy or Marie, are either of you going to provide the introductions for these presenters? Welcome, and go ahead.
Hi. Hi, my name is Jessie Thomas, and I am part of the Golden Fireballs 4-H Club. 4-H has been part of my life for a long time. I love my club and have served every position from president to historian to drama director. This year, I am vice president and co-historian of my club with my friend Leah. I am also in charge of our February meeting. I love attending our club's events. We did some really cool things last year. Some of the members organized a club triathlon and a rock climbing event. We can also throw a pretty awesome party. I usually attend the officer meetings as well, since I enjoy having a say in how the club is run. These opportunities have given me so much self-confidence, public speaking skills, and leadership skills. 4-H has played a huge part in shaping me into the person I am today, and I thank all of you so much for supporting this program. It has a much bigger impact on kids' lives than you think. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Shelby Little, and I'm part of the Pine Lakers 4-H Club. 4-H is a very educational program that can help us kids find confidence and self-esteem. It has especially helped myself in the areas of leadership and responsibility. In 4-H, kids learn new ways to have fun. For example, you can bring your pet or project created in school to the St. Croix County Fair. They learn responsibility by making sure the projects are done on time. The art of creativity is also learned by designing and putting together a project of choice. Through 4-H, kids get off the couch and actively participate in fun, recreational activities. In 4-H, you also learn to give back by also participating in the community.
Hi, I'm Heidi Feiereisen. I'm from the Roberts Ribbon Reapers 4-H Club. Head, heart, hands, health. These 4 words have been the focus of my life for 11 years now. Starting as a measly cloverbud in 1st grade, I have bloomed into an amazing leader and a young adult with a bright future, all because of 4-H. One of the lessons 4-H has taught me is how to be an incredible leader. Learning how to run a meeting, have better organizational skills, and having unbelievable time management are among the many qualities that I was taught. What meant more to me, though, was being able to talk in front of people, how to problem solve, how to have confidence to take control, and how to be independent. This year, I am a senior in high school, and that means preparing for college and more or less choosing my future. 4-H has opened my eyes on what I want to go to school for and has given me the courage to pursue it. I live by the motto, to make the best better, and I can truly say that 4-H has had the greatest impact on my life. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Claire Hugh from True Blue 4-H Club. There's a bumper sticker people used to have years ago. It said, 4-H ain't all cows and cooking. I think that today it's still true. As a 4-H'er, every year at the county fair, I have a chance to try something new. Like the bumper sticker, I've learned to cook, but I've also had the chance to learn how to scrapbook, and I've gotten to perform my piano music for a judge. When you're in 4-H, the possibilities are endless. You could join the show choir or be in a dance line. If you wanted, you could travel all over the world. Or you could stay small with your community and maybe just make the biggest difference of all. I think that's the beauty of 4-H. No matter who you are or what you like, there's a project, a club, a trip, or an activity for you. Take me, for example. All through elementary school, I was shy, had a lisp, and hid behind my books all day. Then, in 4th grade, I joined 4-H. I started reading a poem or short story in front of my club every year. As I got more comfortable with that, I started acting in the mini drama we would perform. Soon, not only was I taking on the lead role, but I would also be doing a reading for a judge at the mini Tan Explosion where we performed our drama. Now, I'm more outgoing. I've started to compete in forensics, a speaking contest, and even though I still love my books, I'm not afraid to ask people what they thought about the movie while we wait in line for the bathroom or for a ride to pick us up. The sad thing is, I usually get blank stares or mumbled responses, since unlike me, they never got to experience all the wonderful opportunities 4-H provides. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Nancy Berman. I am one of the advisors to these young people, and yes, there are boys in 4-H. Sad to say, the boys are not so anxious to skip class as the girls. So every year you're getting girls here. But I want to remind you that this, or inform you that this coming week, this week is National 4-H Week, and so as you drive around the county, you'll see some signs up advertising 4-H. These young ladies and their group of ambassadors put together a sign that happens to be hanging up in the top windows of the Animal Care Center out on Highway 12. So if you hit it just right, when the sun's not shining on the windows, you can actually see the posters. One of those things. Then we would like to invite you to come and join us over in the room right next door for your morning treat that we are delighted to provide for you. And I was told that it doesn't have to be healthy. Ice cream was just fine. So please come and join us, and thank you again for having us. If you have any questions about 4-H, please ask one of the young ladies or myself or Marie's back there too, our county agent. Thanks again.
Supervisors, we will stand informal and reconvene at 10:15. Supervisors, let's reconvene. At this point, I will invite Building Services Director Tobin to respond specifically to the federal walk behind and the deficiencies in the building that were uncovered as a result of that, and corrective actions. Art?
Good morning. I asked for emergency vacation, and county administrator said no way, he had to stay. So, question was asked if what's next? What's next on in the bucket list, as we call it in our department? I'd like to answer that kind of in this way. In building services, we look at it as a building. There's the facility that Cindy runs and takes care of the patients. We take care of the building. A lot of the things that we take care of are just age dependent. We take a look at things like the building here at the Government Center. 17 years into a building, we ended up putting, redoing a wall, taking care of a new roof, putting new boilers in, and air conditioners after 17 to 19 years of operation. That building up there is short of, I think, 30 years of operation, and so we have to take a look at it that way. Some of the things that we're going to need to take a look at in addition to these lists are our air handling units that are on the floors, our ventilation lists that are on the floors. We've started to work on our RJO tub rooms, and that we'll be taking a look at redoing some of those rooms. But as far as those big issues, I would say that some of the things that we're looking at are windows that we're taking a look at for the future. I would also say that the HVAC units on each one of the floors we'll be taking a look at. And then again, as part of this is to be fully sprinkled by the year 2013 is part of this this resolution, to make sure that we're taking care of that as well. We'll be having to take a look at some of our jacks for our elevators, that we'll be taking a look at those ones too, but we have that in this building here at the Government Center as well. We have a 3-stop and a 2-stop elevator up in New Richmond. We have 2 3-stops here. We need to go through those same certification processes in that part, making sure that we're compliant. So again, the big ticket items that I would take a look at are things like the windows. I would take a look at the air handling units that are in there. I would also take a look at the RJO tubs that are in there. Those rooms, and finishing up on all floors as to do with that. And County Board has spent, a considerable amount of money this year alone. We've put in new hot water heaters. We've had a boiler that's failed. We've had a loading dock that has been sponsored and taken care of by County Board here. So it's ongoing maintenance. Those are the looming big things that we need to take a look at. Our condensing units on the outside are aged, and we'll be looking at that as far as capital outlay going forward. But if anybody has any questions, be glad to answer.
Thank you, Board Chair. So whether it's used as a nursing home or it's used as some other purpose, would you almost be giving the same report about the windows, the HVAC, the sprinkle? I mean, if you're going to use it for office space, wouldn't you be looking at the same thing down the road?
If it was going to be transferred into an office building, there would be a retrofit at that time. There'd be a renovation of the building, and hopefully the purpose would be defined, what was going to take on in the building, and the building would be changed, and expenditures for that would happen at that time. But yes, we take a look, in building services, we take a look at it. It's the facility of the building that we're looking at and what's going on in there for that building.
Supervisor Sather.
I just had a procedural question. I see this resolution came straight to the county board, and I know that the county board gave the administration committee the authority to reallocate these bond proceeds. And this, I'm not saying that it's inappropriate. I'm questioning why didn't this first go through the administration committee to request these reallocation funds?
Because of the magnitude of the expenditures, and also the timing was such that because of the bidding requirements and because of the size of the expenditure, was felt to get this to the board as soon as possible. But certainly the admin committee will also weigh in on this matter.
Supervisor Malik.
Well, actually, isn't it the other way around? If the administration committee had approved this, it would not have needed to come to the county board because the administration committee was previously given authority to reallocate. Am I misunderstanding?
No, technically you're correct, but I guess it was my judgment that because of the size of the expenditure that certainly the full board would want to have some sort of input into this.
Supervisor Hermsen.
Thank you, Board Chair. I guess I'm kind of curious as to, given what Art has just told us, that there would be building upkeep requirements regardless of what it was used for. Well, I think what we're hearing here is that windows, elevator checks, things like that are normal building maintenance, but that would be, we'd have the option as a board to do that as we saw fit, or when, as monies available would be available. We don't, the present situation, we don't have that timeline, correct? We're under the gun to do something basically right now. That's the one part. So the question I got then is, what if we don't do this? What if this resolution fails? What are the consequences, and what are our options at that point?
I think that's an important question, and I am going to have Pat answer that, but I would like to have him address a paragraph that begins with line 34, because I think that, as you referenced, Supervisor Hermsen, really does indicate that there is a certain criticalness.
Right, my understanding is that if the county chooses not to make the necessary improvements, that eventually the federal government will cut off funding, Medicare funding, eventually, if we don't comply with their survey requirements. And what the timing of that is, I'd have to have Fred speak to that, but eventually that's what they'll do. That's the hammer that they hold.
So, reading that from line 34 through 36, the resolution is saying that there'll be a 3-month, we have this approved by September 27th, or a mandatory 3-month denial of payment for new Medicare and Medicaid resident admissions will be imposed. So I think what I'm hearing is, if we decide not to do this, the only consequence is that we're basically putting a hold on any new Medicare, Medicaid patients coming into the nursing home. I guess where I'm trying to look at here, in 3 months' time, how many people would we really bring in? And given we're talking, good grief, over $600,000 here, I could look at it from like a business standpoint and say, well, what would it take for a payback? How many patients would we have to come back in to make a payback of $600,000? Given that we've got 97 open beds in the county, I'm starting to wonder here why we wouldn't hold on this, given the need for dollars elsewhere. So I'm trying to open that up just to look down that avenue for a moment. If I can.
Are you addressing the question to anyone
Well, I guess I
specific,
was trying to open it up for the board here, maybe to comment on that, to look at it down that avenue for a moment. If we were to turn around and say no to this, all the consequences that happen to the nursing home are that they just can't take any new Medicare, Medicaid patients in. They still can take private pay. We're not under the gun to fess up large amounts of dollars when we have other needs. And I guess right now I'm trying to understand why that wouldn't be a viable option to hold pat on that. Not
Ask Fred.
Yeah, I guess Fred would be probably the best one to.
I've already alerted him, he's on his feet and working his way forward. I think those are questions very germane to the discussion.
The timeline that we were under is to get the plan of correction approved by the 27th. And as stated in the resolution, if we didn't have that approval, we would be under a mandatory 3-month with losing any revenue for new admissions for Medicaid and Medicare. If our plan of correction wasn't approved within 6 months, it's my understanding that we would be out of the Medicaid and Medicare program completely. So there are some, as Pat indicated, some substantial hammers associated with making sure that the plan of correction was first off approved, and the second step after approval is what we're here today for, is funding, to make sure we can make all the corrections that Pat has identified in category 1 and 2.
Supervisor Malik, I'm sorry, did you have one follow-up?
Well, I was just going to follow up with Fred. Could he expand on what would be the expected number of Medicare and Medicaid patients that you would take in the next 3 months, let's say?
I'm going to have to ponder that for a moment and check with our nursing home administrator to see about what we've been averaging in terms of admissions, because I don't have that number off the top of my head, Steve.
Supervisor Malik.
I was going to ask that question, but it seems to me that I recall from the past that while we don't necessarily have a lot of Medicaid patients, almost everybody has Medicare and paying a part of their bill. Well, we'll probably find out in a minute. I'm not sure I'm clear on what a 3-month denial of payment for new means. I gather one possible meaning is that new patients' bills are not reimbursable if those bills were incurred in the first 3 months since they were admitted. Is that the way everybody is understanding that?
Yes, that's my understanding.
Supervisor Hernchin.
My opinion is all this is just kicking the can down the road further. That's why this place has gotten such a mess in the first place. Just waiting and waiting, stalling, not doing anything, and that's how comes the situation it's in today. All this needs to be fixed right now. It should have been fixed as it goes on. It's like any business you do, you keep up with it instead of letting it. We'll leave it off till next year. We can't afford it.
Supervisor Marzov.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to just bring a few of what I believe are historic facts to the front at this time. If I remember correctly, it was in 2001 that the county board voted to build a new nursing home, and that vote was approved. However, it was never acted upon. So related to your comment just now, Brian, that's very relevant. There were also times when our nursing home had a surplus of revenue, and those surplus funds were given back to the general fund to help balance the budget. And then I have a couple of questions. Which of us who own our own home has not invested in maintenance, repair, and/or remodeling and upgrades to sustain our dwelling place? Which of us who rent our living space fails to realize that rent that we pay includes our landlord's prerogative to use a portion of that rent to cover maintenance and repair done to our dwelling place. These are simply facts of occupancy that I think can't be denied. Kim spoke about a social contract. I would like to paraphrase Kim's words and talk about a social conscience. Our country was founded on the principle of liberty and justice for all. And these arguments that I'm hearing come to the surface about torpedoing the nursing home,
Proceed, Supervisor Marzov.
I would expect the same courtesy from the person who's whistling that I would give if he were the one speaking. I think we have an obligation in conscience to live by the outcome of the 2008 referendum, whereby every single one of the 43 jurisdictions in our county voted by at least a 2-to-1 margin to continue supporting our nursing home with tax levy dollars. I did some math back at that time, and if I remember the figure correctly, with the census what it was and the amount of the subsidy that was given from our levy, the cost out of my pocket as a taxpayer was about 1/10 of 1 cent per day per residence to keep a person in our nursing home. How can we lose sight of the fact that there are people in that home that have no other alternative? That is a home of last resort, especially for those persons who other privately owned nursing homes will not admit. Thank you.
Supervisor Stoffer.
Seems to me there's two questions that this resolution addresses. One, should we fix this? And two, how should we pay for it? And so I was wondering if someone could focus on the how and specifically address what are we giving up by using bond proceeds to fix this, i.e. what was the intended use of those proceeds?
Supervisor Norton Baumann.
Yes, I'd be glad to speak to that. The administration committee is pretty familiar with what happened with the bond proceeds. The original $200,000 that the administration committee, with the approval of this board, reallocated to the nursing home was designed to fix the K-tag violation that included the air handling in the basement. That $200,000 came from what was allocated in the bond proceeds to redo our parking lot here at the government center. So in other words, we've taken that 200 and not redone our parking lot. The request for dollars today comes out of the bond proceeds, and those dollars were designed to purchase new software for our finance department. In investigation of the possibility of doing new software, it became apparent that now was not the time, nor were the dollars available to really purchase the software that we needed. So some substitutions were made, and the balance of what is left from that original $300,000 that was designated for software is what you see here, 200 and, what is it, Pat? 221,000 was left from that software the software proceeds, and that's what we're not doing. If we take the dollars and do these repairs, we do not have the dollars for software for our finance department. Does that answer your question, James?
Fred, do you now have a response with respect to the admission of patients?
We're doing some checking with folks that do the admission just to get more detail, but I'm operating off of what the general budget looks like, as at least for some preliminary information. about 60% of our budget is Medicaid and Medicare dollars that are associated with the residents that we care for. On the Medicare side, it's much more short-term rehabilitation, so residents will come in and out more routinely. In previous years, I believe we reported to the board, and I don't have the annual report in front of me, but that we would have admissions of in the range of maybe 60 to 70 admissions a year. So you can calculate that out, maybe 4 or 5 folks, give or take a little bit, every month. But those are off of my recollection from previous reports. And if you need more specific detail on how many Medicare and Medicaid folks that we may have admitted over the calendar year 2011, it would take still a little bit more time to get that level of detail. I think just for one other point of clarification, the 3-month time frame and the 6-month time frame are certainly important, but I would look at this as we're either all in or not in terms of completing the plan of correction, because at this point, Art and the Building Services Department, along with Health Center administration, have made sure that we have the corrections that the federal surveyor cited us on completed. We have an approved plan of correction. And so the second phase of that is the funding. And without the funding, we would then have to report back to the federal surveyor that we cannot complete our plan of correction. So whether it's 3 months in a temporary or immediate denial of revenue for new patients within 6 months, it's my understanding again that we would be completely out of the Medicaid and Medicare program. So it's a package deal that we need in order to complete the plan of correction.
Supervisor Smith.
I just had a question out of Fred. Do you know for sure out of 72 counties, how many counties still operate a county nursing home? My guess was 7 based upon my research.
7 counties?
Yes.
The number I believe is higher than that. Wisconsin Counties Association has, on a fairly regular basis, talked about nursing homes and counties that are still affiliated, and the last count was, I think, closer to the 35 to 40 range. But I didn't have that level of detail prepared for today, but I can always report back if my memory is incorrect.
Supervisor Hermsen.
Thank you, Board Chair. So let's make sure if I'm understanding things properly here. We're going to, the Health and Human Services Board has asked for a new nursing home. And now they're asking for $600,000 to put money into that building for, apparently it's going to be, their wish is just for a very short term until they can get a new nursing home. $600,000 of which would not need to go into that building if it wasn't a nursing home. We've heard comments here now, Supervisor Marzoff, with the social, what was the term? Contract. Social contract. And conscience, the part I guess I look at that is we provide for those in need that need nursing home care. The state statutes spell out very clear what counties have the ability to do. And there's nothing saying we have to put them in a county nursing home. We've got 97 beds that are open that we can grant and render assistance to wherever they go. The part that's bothersome to me, I guess, is that we're ready now, we're being asked to throw $600,000 into a building that, for the most part, is supporting only county residents in a very specific portion of the county. That's who gets the benefit of that. And I've said before that I think if we're going to put money out there for it, that it be equal to anyone that lives in the county to make use of that service. Given that we're looking at a shortfall coming in this next budget cycle, which we haven't really gone into detail yet, and knowing that the capital outlay that has been severely pulled back, I'm probably prefacing some of this a little bit, but we know it's going to be hard to come up with. I would just assume if we're going to be putting dollars into capital, we do is something that we can use for long term, and not something that we're going to just do as a short-term fix. We have, like I say, we have 97 beds. Of those 97, well, if we took 72 out of that picture, we'd have somewhat of a cushion. And so if we were to not approve the money, we would be looking at only holding off on the new patients coming in, and we can allocate them elsewhere so they get their care. And I think this is just one more step forward to looking at bowing out of the nursing home business. I think that we could limit what we take in and just phase this thing out. So that's my comment.
Supervisor Marzov.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A good number of us sitting here today were not county board members in the summer of 2008 when each of us received a letter from a lady named Colleen Bates. Colleen is currently the vice chair of the Eau Claire County Board, and she serves as chair of the Health and Human Services Committee for Eau Claire County. In the letter that Colleen sent to us, she cautioned us, this was just prior to the referendum in the fall of that year, she cautioned us against closing down our nursing home by saying that after Eau Claire County had closed down its county-run nursing home, the cost to the county was far greater to care for those individuals who had to be placed elsewhere than it would have been had they been allowed to stay in the county home. I think those facts, coming from an authentic person in an adjacent county, are worth listening to and considering as we vote on this resolution.
Supervisor Malik.
With all due respect, I have been in many meetings with Supervisor Bates of Eau Claire County, and she has a heart of gold. However, I have heard several times from authoritative sources, including other supervisors in responsible committee positions, as well as in the staff of Eau Claire County, that hard figures to support that view, which Mrs. Bates has expressed again and again, have never been compiled and probably do not exist. So I have always respected her emotion, but not her facts, and I would suggest that other supervisors ought not to rely on them. No, I think, again, with all due respect to a supervisor, it is not appropriate to characterize today's decision as a request for approval to spend $650,000. There, if you look at the spreadsheet of the 4 categories, and you look over at the right-hand side, we're being asked today for the $229,000. We've already heard that the K tag or K067 waiver has been granted for whatever period of time currently.
1 year.
Will be requested again. And the category 4 items are out in the future now, notwithstanding that they are work that probably needs to be done by 2013, and there may be other items, as Mr. Tobin has just suggested, that may be need to be done if we're going to continue to occupy the building in the 2013 calendar year and our 2013 budget. However, when you look again under the notes column of that spreadsheet, you'll see that there are a number of items there that would have to be done, even if we were going to repurpose this building to an office structure, which is, as I understand it, the proposal that the Health and Human Services Committee essentially makes when it asks for a new nursing home and assisted living facility, that a part of that package, if you will, would be a conversion of the present home to office space. So I just would like to be sure the record is reasonably correct as to the facts that are before us. We're being asked to approve $228,000, of which the money is on hand, and having already made the decision that we can put off the parking lot work, that's the decision that we're being asked to make.
Supervisor Norton Baumann.
Thank you, Board Chair. I attended the Health and Human Services Board meeting last month, and I was there to hear the report from the auditor, from Lawson Allen, concerning the audit of the nursing home and the HHS whole system. One of the things that I came away with after that meeting is that there were 3 specific times that the auditor spoke to the Health and Human Services Board about the declining usage of nursing home beds countrywide, statewide, and countywide. That the federal government and the state government seem to be inclined to fund CBRFs, community-based residential facilities, and assisted living facilities rather than funding nursing homes. I think we ought to pay attention to that coming from the auditor at the nursing home, that the potential use down the road might not be what we see today. The other thing I'd like to say is that in our proposed 2012 budget, which the Administration Committee will be going through this afternoon, there is a request for around $1 million, excuse me, or a little more, of around $1 million of capital projects. In that budget, our administrator has suggested that we can only afford $750,000. So he and his staff will be coming forward with a proposal of what will be cut out of that request for $1 million in capital projects. So we need to know that this year, 2012, coming up, we will cut $250,000 in capital project requests in order to fit our budget for 2012. The other thing I'd like to remind this board of is that according to the preliminary 2012 budget, the nursing home will continue to be on the levy for the year 2012. So keep that in mind. I think it's around $120,000 or $130,000 of levy dollars that will be needed to support the nursing home in 2012. My understanding is that when we agreed to the contract changes with the nursing home union, one of the specifications, and please tell me if I'm wrong, is that the nursing home itself was to get off the levy by 2012. In the budget that I've seen, that has not happened. Now, perhaps it can't happen, I understand that, but it certainly is not what I was led to believe.
Supervisor Lucky, I believe you were requesting authorization.
I guess this is a clarification from Fred. If we don't do this within 6 months, we're out of the Medicare and Medicaid programs totally. Is that for every resident in the home or just new patients?
My understanding is would be for all residents, and we would have the right to reapply to be part of the program, but the way I read the document, it would be for all.
So, within 6 months, 60% of our budget would disappear.
Did you say 6%?
60.
60, yes, 60% of our revenue stream would be in jeopardy.
It would seem that 6 months probably wouldn't be enough time for an orderly closure.
Supervisor Horn.
I guess I'm going to make a motion to call the question. I think we've been talking about this for an hour and a half. I think pretty much everybody knows which way they're voting. Let's vote.
Motion for closures is to end debate. Unless there is objection, I'm not going to submit this to a vote. I will take that as a sentiment of the board. Watching body language, that seems to be the case. So we will proceed at this point to end discussion and proceed to vote. The agenda item that is in front of us is on a motion by Supervisor Larson and second by Supervisor Marzoff. And this resolution is approving the Health Center Plan of Correction. Do you have that in? Yes. Supervisors, proceed to vote. And the resolution does pass on a vote of 12 to 6. The resolution is adopted. Agenda item number 3, amendments to the St. Croix County Code of Ordinances. This is Land Use and Development, Chapter 17, Zoning. This comes from the Community Development Committee. Chair would entertain a motion. Motion from Supervisor Hermsen and second from Supervisor Marzoff. Discussion. I suspect there may not be any. This is interesting reading and pretty straightforward. This will assist the Board of Adjustment in its work. Supervisors, I believe you're ready to proceed to vote. Supervisor Marzoff, get your second in. This is an amendment to the St. Croix County Code of Ordinances, Land Use and Development, Chapter 17. Motion Hermsen, second Marzoff. Proceed to vote. And the resolution is adopted unanimously. Do you have any reports of correspondence or any rezoning requests, Cindy?
I have no correspondence. I have 2 rezoning hearings scheduled for the Community Development Committee. Applicant David and Gerda Hagen, Town of Stanton, to rezone approximately 1.9 acres from ag to ag residential. And applicant Robert Sell, Town of Baldwin, to rezone approximately 55.61 acres from ag to ag residential.
Thank you. Just one announcement. Last week, 5 supervisors did attend the Wisconsin Counties Association conference in Sauk County that Pat earlier alluded to. I just would underscore what I thought was a good conference. I thought there were some excellent breakout sessions, and the networking and conversation with other supervisors from around the state always picks up a lot of good information. I thought that was valuable. I would ask the other supervisors that did attend that conference if you would just send me a very brief either email or note and just indicate the breakout sessions that you attended. I do try and track that in a database only so that we have got some record of who has attended various educational opportunities. If the question ever comes up, we've got a list of who are the go-to people. So if you just indicate what sessions you attended, I'd appreciate that. And with that, supervisors, we have completed our agenda and we are adjourned.